What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? This is Christian from the Yours Truly podcast and Pete from Strange Theology
You
podcast.
found me.
Yes. For the second episode of the Truly Strange show, where we talk about this week in review in this little corner of the internet as we see it a little bit and beyond. Glad you've joined us. We're going to get things started. Hey, Pete.
Hey, Christian, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm always a little nervous about how the late night vibe is going to hit me, but I think we're good. I think we're going to be
Late
okay.
night. That means we're old men. The late night vibe.
Late night vibe. It's 10:17 my house,
It's either this or Netflix or whatever.
Hey,
whatever show.
Fair point. Yeah, I mean, I'd be listening to a podcast rather than recording a podcast. So
There
hey,
you go.
let's go, man.
Let's go.
Yo, we got Chad, we got Teo,
And we got
or
us
Teo.
and a few other people.
Yo.
Yeah, say hi in the chat if you're out there and make us feel virtually not.
Thank you.
Well.
Thank you. And I got to say, Christian and I and, one of our superhero friends has been putting together some show notes here, but there's something not in the show notes that I feel compelled to point out here. Okay. I'm looking at Pastor Paul Vanderklay's YouTube channel right now, and he really wants to crack that 30,000. He's at 29.2, and you know it's just, and he's got Redeemed Zoomer coming on. I mean, he's just pulling. Yeah. He's got Jordan Hall coming on. I mean, he's pulling out some stops. But here's the facts. Everybody, stop the presses, because we need to get Christian Baxter's channel to 500 before Paul gets to 30K. That's the goal. This ain't no PewDiePie versus T-Series. This something greater than PewDiePie is here. So we need to get Christian Baxter to 500 before Paul Vanderklay hits 30,000. That's my goal.
I'm going to put in the Iron Curtain the money wall.
Yeah, and then you start doing stuff behind the paywall. You'll start doing members only live streams. Like, yeah.
Do you do that? You have stuff. I'm not a member of your channel. You do stuff. You do special stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So here's how I use the members section of the channel. It's a tool. Okay. Again, we're learning how to use the tools, shape the tools, play with, but not be, we're going to be shaped by them, but we want to be controlled by other spirits. We want to be sensitive to the spirit of God here.
Not the mammon.
Not the mammon. Not the mammon.
And mammon.
Not interested. So what I've done, and particularly because I'm engaging with Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Russell Brand, some of these big, voices out there, their content gets flagged pretty easily. And so what I'll do is I'll record something and I'll put an uncut version of that onto the members section. And initially I didn't have anybody in the members section, but shout out to Upcycle for gifting some members. So that's been fun. Oh. It's been fun to have some people in there. And so I'll just put it in there, and YouTube will still kind of screen your content, and it'll pop up and say, hey, this section is flagged. And that way, before I release it to the main channel, I can kind of have a heads up of like, is that a legitimate claim or not? And if it doesn't look legitimate, I'll just put it out. Ground. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a testing ground for me, but it also is some fun like uncut stuff, and essentially like the cutting room floor, the stuff that doesn't make it into the the finished podcast.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, Paul Vanderklay is using his paywall very effectively this week. Yeah, dude, he had some bangers hanging out because he had Gavin Ortland this week. Still, it was I think it was maybe
that's
Gavin
right.
Ortland, Jordan Hall,
Jordan, Redeemed Zoomer one. Like I'm just a little member of Paul Vanderklay. I don't even have as far as I know.
No watch, no waits or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not even that much of a member. I'm really on the outside here looking in still.
Well,
man,
enough to where you were paying attention
Yes.
this week. But those were big. Those were pretty big profiles that
Yeah.
I encouraged him to kind of do that. I don't know if I, he made mention that I said something like on my intro to the podcast that I did with him. I said something like he can't quite crack 30,000 subs, and then he has made mention of that a few times. But yeah, I mean, I was really happy to see Redeemed Zoomer on there.
That's cool.
They had a really good conversation. I would encourage everyone to listen to it. Redeemed Zoomer sometimes is a little too something for my taste. Too based for my taste.
He's a little too based. Now we're getting spicy. You know what?
But I've always wanted him to talk to Paul, and I thought that all his viral stuff was actually wildly probably effective in the world. Did you watch any of his little 10-minute blips and stuff?
You're not much. And, again, it's a little bit different for my taste. It's really weird. I realize there's a huge audience for the 10 to 12-minute videos, which
That you
seems
went
like
to seminary for?
What's that?
That you went to seminary to learn them?
I guess, because that's what they're telling me. They're telling me you can only talk for 12 minutes and then nobody has the attention span.
Yeah.
And yet Joe Rogan is putting out 3-hour podcasts that are getting millions of views. Okay, come on. Let's read the tea leaves here. So it just always was a little bit, yeah, I'm a long form content person. I really like hearing the dialogue unfold. I realize that's not for everybody because it really does takes time, 15, 20 minutes sometimes before the dialogue really starts to kick in. So if you're just joining us,
yeah, you still got 10 more minutes.
Yeah, hit the like button, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Just hang in there. Because Chad is already dropping some claims.
What is he saying?
He is saying, am I reading this right? All right, so I have a problem with talking and reading chat. If you've ever caught any of my live streams, it's a mess.
Any thought on this guy's claims?
We're going to be the glorious niche of all time. We're going to this little corner, the people. Now, if Neil is in the house, Neil and I got together today, a little I don't know what you call it, teaser. I guess it's a teaser. And we were talking. See, this is confusing. There's a Friday morning nameless person, and then there's a Chad. I don't know who's who. See,
yeah,
we can't trust any of these people.
Oh snap! They got it. They colonized it. I made my own little poem. #poem.
Nice.
That's fun.
Nobody expects the 11 p.m. Saturday time slot. That's true. I got to go to work really early in the morning.
Well, he's Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, so it's even later.
So he's 11 right now.
Whew. Oh, right. It's not even 11. It's 10:25.
Yeah, so he's in Pennsylvania.
There's only Chad. That's right. Only Hulk. Okay, the reason that this is going to be the greatest, what did he say? I agree. I think I agree with you, Chad. The most glorious niche of all time. Okay, glorious is a good word. Glory, to give glory, right? So what is it? How do we? And I say we. I feel really bad because I'm about to exclude some people. We who have the same spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in us. Okay?
Not if you're Luke Thompson. You're not excluding anybody.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk to Luke here soon. So, that's
really?
a tease upon a tease. Okay. Neil and I talked today. I think Luke and I are talking Monday.
All right. Yeah. Spreading it around. That's good.
Okay. See, I've come out of lurkerdom. That's what's happened.
You've been out of lurkerdom since we did our first this was my first podcast, you and me.
See, I jumped into this little corner because Paul Vanderklay was doing a live stream and then he shared a link and I clicked the link and
I think that was the first stream I ever saw. The first live stream that I ever saw of his.
Yeah, and I didn't know what was happening. I legit didn't know what was happening.
You just said, "Does anybody ever heard of Andrew Peterson?" That's or the Rabbit
Oh,
Room.
that's right. The Rabbit Room. Andrew, yeah,
That's what
because we
you
were
said.
talking about sort of how to take digital community into embodied space. And wow, that's really interesting.
Chamomile. I
That's
got out at
really
work with them and
interesting.
regretted it. Man, you've entered the virtually not alone space, my friend.
Yo.
So let's hit some of these. Let's hit some of these
Okay. All
points,
right.
some
All right.
TLC points. So
Chad, you have a good point. I think you're onto something there.
PBK had a huge week behind the paywall, so it'll be rolling out this week. I think he gave previews for all of these. So and I think his Gavin Ortland one's already out, but the Jordan Hall one, I'm a big Jordan Hall fanboy for obvious reasons, but that one to me was like the most like granular on his life story that Paul really pulled. He teased some things out that I thought were crazy about that. Jordan Hall went to Texas A&M and got here was the funny part. They said, here's your whole school paid for, room and lodge, and here's beer and pizza money. And
Yeah.
then did you catch that?
Yeah. I caught a clip of that. I don't think I have the whole video.
And then, okay, well, where do I want to go to law school? Harvard, Yale.
Right, 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 right.
It's just like, okay. No,
I had heard of Harvard. I'd heard of Harvard from a movie, and I thought, well, that's where, yeah, that's where we should go, right?
yeah, that was it. Yeah, okay. I'd seen it on Goodwill Hunting, and it sounded like
Yes, we need to go to Harvard Law.
um so the last thing I want to say about Paul is you brought up the Julie Garland thing that he didn't you bring that up?
Okay, so I connected a
Okay.
Judy Garland video
Mhm.
with Paul's video on the music industry. Which one was it? Gosh, Paul is putting out why the music industry will never be just about money, spirits that ride us. He did a few, didn't he? He was on this music kick, and I saw this video about Judy Garland, and it blew my mind.
Props.
Yo.
Keep
MNW.
going. Yeah. Keep going. Judy Garland blows your mind.
So yeah, so it wasn't a Paul video, but I was linking what Paul had done, and essentially like it's just like Paul's talking about music, so Paul's onto a music kick. I'm like, so I'm gonna link him in this because this video, I guess if you guys are following him on Twitter, the link is there. But it was about how somebody just did a version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and this guy who's in the music industry has a YouTube channel where he analyzes different music things. So they sent him that song to say, hey, has this been digitally corrected? Can you kind of like scan it through? And so he scans it through this software to see that, and I can't even remember who it was. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. Gosh, who was it? Anyway, they pitch correct, right? So she's hitting the notes perfectly and sustaining them like an instrument would, but not like the vocal cords of a singer would. And then when you compare that with Judy Garland, we all listen to Judy Garland's version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow and we're blown away. We're taken into another realm because it's beautiful. At least, okay, maybe I'm being a little bit hyperbolic there, but it's like, wow, this is so beautiful. She's like 19 and she's blowing this song away. And it's all over the map. When you run it through the software, she almost never sustains the note. She's always a little bit off. And so what he was explaining is that our ear will tune to the vocals. So there's how would you say this? It's just agency on both ends, right? There's a person on one end, there's a person on another end. The person singing may not be singing perfectly, and the person listening can tune. If you've ever seen a billboard, like an old school billboard where the letters are connected by those little strips of paper, right? Like, for example, the A doesn't have just a floating triangle in it. It's got a little piece of a little gap that connects that floating triangle to the rest of the structure of the A. But as you look at those old billboards, you just see the letter A. You don't see the little strip. So the correction, the imperfection gets absorbed because you're interpreting it. The same thing is happening with Judy Garland's song. She's not perfect, but it is beautiful.
Mm,
And
I like that
but
line.
yeah, but the beauty of it is shared between the singer and the listener. And if you put a vocalist through this correction, you've just turned the vocalist into an instrument. It's just a piano key. It's been
Right.
tuned. You hit the key and you hear the note.
I've really,
And
I mean, I've really struggled with this as a musician. Like, how should I approach
right,
music and and church stuff. And I kind of had a little traumatic flashback on the conversation the other night when we were talking about beauty on the Friday morning Nameless with Chad, and we were talking about music and perfection and all this stuff.
yeah,
Well, so yeah, it's an interesting thing how where especially if we start getting into the AI conversation about humanity and trying to hold on to our humanity, and that's like
hmm
versus a machine, because even in that machine digital correction and all that kind of stuff, even on here, even on StreamYard, it'll do like you can ask the version I have, you can get facial touch-ups on here and stuff
oh,
too.
give
Yeah.
it to me.
So I'm gonna
Well, and
do
and I
here's
will say, I am sorry. My audio, it's actually my camera that's delayed. So anybody watching this, just watch Christian. If I'm delayed, ignore me. I know that could be, uh, upsetting. We're breaking the fourth wall here.
all right.
Uh,
So what the thing I want to do is I want to get into this TLC, um just kind of a run. I'm just going to do this rundown, kind of like I did last night.
hmm,
And then, or last time we did
last
this.
week. Okay.
Yes, last week, whenever that was. And then I want to, so I'm just going to kind of run down this thing. So people who uh, are wanting to see if there's something interesting that they didn't catch this week that they want to go back and look at, or kind of, and again, this is my kind of myopic view
Mm,
because I've only been doing this for 4 months or so. So I have a myopic view of things that I'm kind of paying attention to. So if anybody gets offended by not being mentioned, or add it in a comment and
yeah.
and play along. So first I'm going to say is that Grim Grizz on his unintentional members only, not members only live stream, he had a very what would I call it? Kind of an intimate connection with his crew on it's something that was very important to him. So if you're a Grim Grizz fan and you didn't see that, go hop on there. It's kind of personal, so that's why I'm being
Mm,
vague. Um, and then yeah, go check him out. Um, and I don't know if Pete, you know this, but Grim Grizz has he has his Fringe Encounters podcast. He has episodes with John Vervaeke and Richard Rowland.
nice.
And so let's see. The other big thing that's just been happening this week is Brandon Graham Dempsey has about made the complete podcast rounds. He was on Grail Country today. He did Transfigured last Monday. Luke Thompson was on his podcast or YouTube channel. And of course, he's done two with Paul and then one with myself. So Brendan Graham Dempsey has, he's no longer meta TLC. He is, he is in the TLC,
He's in.
whether he knows
Um,
it or not.
yeah, and I think there's a good playlist of his that I saw
Yeah.
poking around. But yeah, you can just check out his channel.
Maybe Mostly Not Working has one on Twitter of
I
like
think so. Yeah.
keeping up. I think he's also done one for like Jordan Hall as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, but he was on Transfigured with Sam Tiedman. I'm just going to give Luke Thompson a shout out that he's posting intentionally on YouTube community posts. I think he's
Yeah.
always been a big community poster, and that's a way. Obviously, he does his live streams and stuff, but he did one on a certain Michael Polanyi, who I've heard him talk about before, about I don't know. And the thing about Luke is, and the Grail Country use of what they do in TLC is this digital hospitality.
Hmm.
Just they open up the doors. They say, "Come." It's a very what they consistently do. What they consistently bring is like this hospitality to this corner. Even though there's sometimes highfalutin things, but then there's this like poetry, and then there's this angst that also gets flowed. I don't know. It's a nice space.
When you say hospitality, you just
Mhm.
mean the invitation is out there.
Yeah,
It's an
they
inviting.
consistently have, open like which is kind of downstream from I think the just chatting Randos
Hmm.
United culture that is also kind of part of this that I haven't been as connected to, but it's kind of that's how I look at it. They practice this kind of digital hospitality, um, where there's a host and the host makes they sometimes have a revolving host like Lance will come
Hmm.
in there
Hmm.
or Sherry, and they just kind of like they moderate, but they just allow people to kind of let the conversation, let the logos lead.
I don't know of another channel that does that. I mean, again, I
Yeah,
think that there is something very unique going on with the people who are participating in TLC. And maybe there are other channels that are doing that.
Chad's here. I could find some, right, Chad?
Yeah, and I just like to me that's I don't know, that's really cool because yeah, like sometimes it's like the person who initially starts it has to go to work and yet there's still dialogue going on. And so out of in a sense out of respect for the community and the dialogue, you keep going, like okay, somebody else is going to step in here. I feel like there's something really sort of I don't know Socratic about that. I don't know how else to say it, but
All right, Chad, I didn't forget you. The Friday Morning Nameless, he had a rando with Doug, and Doug was using a Bizarro wrestling mask in their
yeah, this
ad
should
for
check.
that. And I thought that was a fun thing that Doug brought in this. He was wearing a mask for like the first 20 or 30 minutes. A race, one of those wrestling masks. I met Doug at the Symbolic World. He's a really nice guy. He has a great mustache. Um, he's a fellow reformed friend to you, Pete.
Oh yeah.
He's a very reformed dude.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, he also talked to Clint D, a longtime lurker. He talked about how much he likes bringing song into or like connecting things to songs. Um, and then there was a Friday morning fragment with Pete and Neil. Neil kind of hosting that with Pete. And I only recognized Pete from a Cassidy Vanderkamp stream I saw one time.
Huh.
So, and she's somebody that's in the corner that has she's done like a whole series on Taylor Swift.
Huh.
Yeah. So and then there's that one channel, yours truly. This week we had
Yeah.
Jordan Hall return, Paul Vanderclay, Karen with the meaning code, and then this Roy Klauser thing. Did you catch any of the saga?
Whew. Okay, that's the old guy. No, I mean, Roy, I am sorry. I don't mean old in any sort of bad way. I just meant I don't know what I meant. It's just the words that came out of my mouth.
Yeah,
That's the I
it's
shared the
fine.
link for
You mean
the
the old
Friday
guy?
Morning Nameless Pete and Neil one. Roy was the he's the oh gosh.
Christian philosopher.
Well, yeah, but he connected with the guy with the weird last name,
Deweyverd.
Deweyverd.
Yeah.
Indeed,
This
Deweyverd. Indeed,
the funniest part about this is CW Weeks. Did you see his super chats? That he,
a little bit of that on yours or on Paul's. I saw
on
the ones on
Paul.
Paul's.
On Paul.
Yeah, yeah. The Deweyverd one is interesting. He also sent me a link for a guy named John Frame and this I'm gonna get the but like multi-perspectivalism, like the idea that and again I haven't read much on it. I need to get up on this. As much as like I've got some Brendan Graham Dempsey stuff waiting to read. I've got this other stuff to read. But essentially it's like I can't I, beginning from myself, can only see a certain amount. So it's the collective
I can
we.
see everything. I can see everything.
I don't know.
I
I don't
can't.
know about that.
I cannot.
Seabacks.
I'm just saying you're not alone. We can
Okay.
only take. That's what we're trying to help with right
The
now.
collective we can see more than the individuated we. Anyway, I don't know why I'm derailing the conversation on that, but you
The
asked me a
royal
question
we.
and I went off
The
on something
royal
else.
we.
CW weeks, yeah, the super chats.
So he on Friday, when he was trying to get to where we could line it up after Paul's live stream.
Right.
This is a big deal for CW. This is a big part of his theology. I was
Right.
like, I will be your vessel. I will try to be your vessel and honor this. But he put in $100 super chat on Paul's channel on Friday.
To promote people going to your channel. Like, hey, 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 Paul.
But this is
Little kickback there.
to this point, Chad, distributed cognition, bruh,
Yeah.
is like
Bruh. Yeah.
um this that's how you leverage a network. That's what that is. Like it's leveraging a network to try to do something. And he did it. He didn't do it shyly and he didn't do it secretly. He did it with his own money. So, anyways, I know this person. The corner's a quick
Corners. Get rich quick. See. Wow.
right. Look at these. Y'all can't see how many people are watching this right now. Y'all have no idea. There are 13.
Yo. Ooh. We need one more at least. At least.
So yeah, quick, get rich quick. Yeah, that's right. CW, he was pulling some strings behind the scenes, but it was actually really fun to do that, and it was fun. It was, what I liked about it was he was the one doing all the promotion, but I don't like that stuff, and so at least like the out loud part, I'll be like, hey, my show's happening now,
Right.
like I think that's fine, but
We all need our own CW weeks, is what Christian is saying.
yeah, an agent. He did play agent.
He's basically, yeah, he's the agent. No, that was a great conversation, and again,
Well, it
I
was a long
love.
conversation. I'll tell you that much.
It was long. I still haven't gotten all the way through it.
The first 45 minutes with his story was
That is so good.
It was
Well,
fun.
and again, it's a story about a philosopher going to school.
Yeah.
Like on surface and in a surface level, that sounds like the most boring story ever. You're like, but
Oh yeah. What was his journey to becoming a philosopher?
but it's a journey. It's a journey, and it's told well. And I think there's something to that. As we,
I felt like I was listening to Martin Shaw. I mean, it was so good.
So I hit Martin Shaw at the same time that I hit Ian McGilchrist. So I'm reading, The Master and the Emissary right now, and I really do think story is a powerful tool. I think it's something that we have 100% lost. I think in the Christian church, this is something that for whatever reason we have abandoned. I think he even talked about it in his experience with seminary. I just, there's something about how we have prepared people in ministry that it's like, hey, you need to explain this very clearly. It's like, okay, that's not true. But in our effort to explain it clearly, we have done away with story, and we've opted for outline. We've opted for whatever the logic part of the logos,
the bullet points, and even Teo's saying the British recolonization is happening. Well, and I mean, to that point, that was all happening in New England. Think about it. That was his whole story. And if you didn't sit through the 2.5 hours of that podcast, the last, the first 45 minutes is a very endearing and entertaining and engaging story by an 87-year-old man who became a philosopher and travel his intercontinental travel and getting into Harvard from, his parents saying that college is of the devil and all that kind of stuff. There's it was a really cool story. I would encourage anybody to listen to him tell his story. If you have further theological and philosophical interests, listen to the whole thing. So I want to hand the stuff over to you, Pete, and talk about your work with what you're seeing. Maybe start with the Joe Rogan and the Vervaeke
Okay.
horror thing.
Yeah. Well, if you listened to Joe Rogan talk to Tucker Carlson.
That's not where we're going. Go ahead.
No, which one? That's the one.
Yeah, no, keep going. I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
So if you listen to Joe, God, you scared me. So if you listen to Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson says a very, very interesting thing. He says, through the Industrial Revolution, we sort of replaced the body. We replaced muscles with machines. Okay, so that's body. Now, during the sort of internet or tech revolution, we've replaced the mind, or we're attempting to replace the mind with AI, which the light bulb for me went on because, for whatever reason, maybe somebody can help me understand this. I keep going back to the Republic. I keep going back to the Republic. So like whatever's happening in culture, whatever I'm seeing in culture, I'm sort of seeing it through, or at least I keep using the Republic for this because.
Do you mean Plato's Republic?
Yeah, Plato's Republic. So Socrates in the Republic was explaining that, like, basically the human soul has three parts. The soul in the sense of what does it mean to be human? Well, you have a mind, you have wisdom, you have the body, you have the appetites of the body, and then you have the spirit, the sort of seat of courage, the heart, if you will. And when Tucker said that, it's like, okay, we've replaced the body, we've replaced the mind. How are we going to replace the spirit? How are we going to do that?
Well, that was my conversation with Jordan Hall as well. Towards the end of our second conversation, he said the spiritual language is like this infinite language that we haven't. That the all of reality is we've been boxed in over here.
Right.
Keep going.
And so it's interesting to me that Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson had that episode the same week that Climbing Mount Sophia had the video, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it was 10 days apart. I don't know. It was close. Had this video on AI and how it's what is it? And oh gosh, I have to dig a little bit deeper. But anyway, the point is, how do you manufacture spirit if you're going to recreate humanity, not in the image of God, but in our own image, right? And create this Frankenstein monster. That's what it is you need spirit. And so that video about how we're removing Judy Garland, we're no longer listening to Judy Garland sing with her natural voice, listening with our natural ears. We're listening to some, in a sense, computer corrected voice. Well, what Socrates would say is music links to the spirit. It's the thing that, and I don't know, maybe somebody can help me out with this, because there's more to it, because in a sense, music is almost analogous to the soul, in that there's lyric, which is the wisdom, that's lyrics, that's the logos. There is
heartbeat.
There's the beat, the rhythm.
The relationship of harmony.
Yeah, and then there's this harmony. So in a sense, music is like the soul, but it's also very sort of spirited. It can get you up and moving, right? That's kind of it can. Why do why do we, drum when there's an army going? I don't know. Like, there's
There's
something,
reasons. There's reasons.
yeah, there's something to the fact that we're sort of removing, well, I guess, and it's connected to breath too. That was my other thought.
All right. Breath.
So breath, spirit, and if sort of culture becomes attuned to listening to human voices that have been corrected by machines,
We've been
they're
attuned to that for a long
right,
time now.
thereby turning the human voice into an instrument and not the human voice. What we've basically erased is spirit. We've erased the breath part, the spirit. And so it's not a natural voice anymore that we're listening to with natural ears. It's a mechanized voice. It's a mechanical voice that no longer has
And then now
that
with
spirit.
artificial music, it's an artificial voice. Is that what you're?
Yeah, exactly. And so the and I don't know. Like, again, this is where things get strange. If you're not paying attention, you are being prepared for deception, because you'll go, "Oh yeah, that's great music." That's one step to it. But then you combine, so that would be fake spirit with fake mind. Well, not fake, but manufactured spirit with manufactured mind with manufactured body. And now you have a body, you have a human that looks divine but is not. So what do we have? What have we arrived at?
A non-human.
A non-human masquerading as the divine.
Oh, that would be the angel of light. That would be strange theology.
I'm just putting, I don't, and this,
Can you hear that? I'm adding some sound.
yeah, I heard that.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
That's where the hive mind comes in, because
that's where the hive mind comes in. I have no idea.
we can laugh because we know the end of the story.
Well,
But and I don't know if that's really the intent, but I mean, I think that is, I don't know. It seems innocuous, Tucker sort of dropping that, but then when you when you have Joe Rogan and the guys from Climbing Mount Sophia essentially talking about the same thing, I'm like, that's not an
who were the guys
accident.
on climbing Mount Sophia?
Okay,
Drop the name.
so it was Jonathan Peugeot, it
There
was
we
John
go.
Vervaeke,
There we go.
it was I'll find the video here and I'll link it, but
CW. No. What's his name? I think I have it.
Kevin.
It is DC Schindler, and then the guy who runs Mount Sophia is. Well, I'm blanking too right now.
It's okay. Yeah, Ken. I said Kevin. Ken Lowry.
Ken Lowry,
Oh, okay. David Schindler is DC. Okay. I think I have heard that name before.
professor of metaphysics and anthropology at the Pontifical John Paul II Institute for Studies of Marriage and Family at the Catholic University of.
Yeah. So that's,
Copy paste ran out. So
yeah.
sorry.
There you go,
There
Ken.
it is. So what happened with what was the connection now between spirit and breath and to horror? Was it the horror part of John Vervaeke's?
No, there's more here that I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to
Are you
sift
giving
through.
a preview for a video? That's what we're doing.
I mean, essentially, I've already. Yeah. That's what it's gonna have to be.
Well, that's what's gonna happen.
That's what it's. Okay.
I thought the thing
Because-
that was interesting about that conversation was that they described horror as not as like shock scare.
Yes.
Horror is the realization that nothing's changed, but everything is, or I don't even know how to say it, but that everything's wrong, even though like nothing's changed or something like that.
Yeah. True horror is the disorientation of being dishomed. You have no location anymore, right? You don't know what up and down is. You don't know if a friend or foe, right? Everything is like, it's all distorted. That's at least what I was picking up listening to their conversation is you're no longer connect, and I think that's key. You're no longer connected to community. You're no longer connected to place. You are isolated in a deep dark wood. That's horror, because now
And I think you could point that to a dystopic AI future type thing, like when you're describing that kind of isolation, or, and everyone thinks everything's okay.
And it's huge because the people who have been isolated are vulnerable. Again, if we're not paying attention, there is some deception that will come in and it will capture those who are vulnerable. And that's why I really do like there's a part of what we're doing this TLC. It's fun, it's play. It's also spiritual warfare. Like we're providing the antidote. Maybe that's too much. That's too strong. But like at least an alternative to me, doom scrolling TikTok right now or playing, a video game by myself right now. What am I doing? I'm participating in a community. And even though that community exists in digital space, and to John Vervaeke's point, in a way, maybe it exists in the imaginal. That doesn't mean it's not real, and that doesn't mean that locating yourself within that community is not real. It is real. It's not geographic. It's not terrestrial.
It's digital.
It is digital. If my power goes out right now, like I'm vulnerable in that sense, but it's not real. Is that how you say that? And so Vervaeke is dealing with spirit and body throughout that conversation, and Peugeot is dealing with stories. Are there any stories that have prepared us for what we're seeing in the future development of AI?
Yeah,
Because
I watched a TED talk about AI today, and he was some big guy, looked like Steve Jobs up there on stage wearing the right kind of outfit. And he was like saying how how his son was playing with this AI, speaker and for breakfast a lot. And he's like, "Dad, what is AI?" And the whole thing was then answering that question. And he starts talking about it like a creation. And the thing that I did highlight his comment, by the way, while you were monologuing on that last section. But
okay.
the thing about he was saying that actually was making him think how to form building AI, and he was like, we actually have to be able to give AI a better story. That's where he ended up. And I beat him to the punch when I was listening to it. I was like, Jordan Peterson just went bing. It was like AI needs a story because we're all built, and that touches on this imaginal thing. That touches on we're playing a part, we're playing a role. We're in story here. This is the Truly Strange story, the TLC story, the Strange Theology story. Like, I mean, there's just and I think like what I've experiencing doing this podcast, when I write the intros for these things, I am orienting myself
Right
in a space, in a story with these relationships. Very strange. Did you have something you were wanting to put up on the screen? What was that? We have it sitting here. I don't know.
We're not there yet. Yeah.
Okay.
I know you're.
That was what?
You need to close out soon. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. That was the Adam Curry one. We can get to it when we get to it, if we get to it.
Okay. Yeah. I have a bullet point. Yeah, I have a bullet point.
Something here with that AI. There's really that I don't know that has been talked about. We are co-creators with God.
There we go.
AI could become a demon, right? It could become a demon. But it doesn't have to be a demon. It doesn't have to be. If people who are living in harmony with God steward the world and the technology that they've been given, I have no problem with this thing. But if it's humanity in rebellion to God, trying to kill God and take God's place and manufacture God in our own image, then we got some problems.
That was the other part of that came up to my mind, was like the language was very much about, we have to see this as like we're kind of like making our. He talked about looking into a mirror. I mean, it was kind of freaky, but
Well, okay. I mean, what is YouTube if not a way of self-diagnosing your own, like,
say it, Pete.
what, I don't know what the word is, like
I wanted to
psychosis,
say narcissism.
narcissism. Yes,
What I
like
wanted to say.
like YouTube will tell you who you are based off of what it's going to recommend.
Yeah, that's a very strange one.
So it
So
is in a way a weird mirror, but again, there's that deception. There is that chance of deception that is very real, that you think you're looking into a mirror, but you're not. You're looking into something else that's not accurately reflecting back who you are. Who is the one who accurately reflects you back who you are? It's Christ. I stare at the face of Christ, and there's a type of magic there. I don't know. That's a bad word. That's like not a church word, but there's something there, right? That is transformative, because what do I see in the image of a Christ? What do I see in the person of Christ? I see similarity and distinction. Christ is near enough to me that I can relate to Christ, but Christ is holy and therefore distinctly set apart. And so there's this othering that happens that says, okay, I'm not who I should be. So the most accurate reflection, even of who I am or should be, is still the person of Christ. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
that makes sense to me.
Not something I create, because if I create this mirror, this AI mirror, and then I stare into that AI mirror, I'm not doing anything other than what Narcissus did, right?
Right.
Narcissus, I always get that wrong.
Narcissus.
Narcissus. So anyway,
So I wanted to make let me see. There was a Joe Rogan clip with trigonometry guys this week that they had on, since Jordan Peterson was in. Did you see it, Pete?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I know which one you're talking about.
I don't want to steal that from your channel, but
No, show it if you want to show it.
well, I didn't get that link, but they were talking about. I mean, the way they started talking. Well, actually, I was watching the James Lindsay Joe Rogan thing, and they were talking about atheist as a they. Both of them were talking about atheists as they. They do this, they do that. Both of them.
Right.
I just saw that, so I'll add that to you can go track that one down, and then the one with Joe Rogan talking to the trigonometry dudes they were talking about what it's like to work with Jordan Peterson, because they're on Constantine is on tour with him. And yes, of course, this is for all of us, chamomile. And is that they were like, they were talking about the thing that I experienced about going to the conference, or to his. I kind of was annoyed-ish by people that were there for his political comments, but there was like, and I would be interested if you felt like there was a contingency that was mainly there to connect to him politically, versus like what he was. I mean, he was just basically preaching up there. Like, I don't know what else to call it. I mean, you're as a preacher, you could call it something else, but
Yeah. I had mixed feelings of my Jordan Peterson experience in Nashville, because I feel like he got really close to pointing people to Jesus and didn't.
Yeah.
He pointed people to something like Jesus.
Well, but if people, the interesting thing about that though is when people take that next step to get to church, then where are they at that point?
And that's where I'm mixed. I'm not sure if he is being the good storyteller and is burying the gold, right? Saying, I'm going to talk around this thing, but it's for you to go find it.
Even while I'm talking about Genesis.
Right. And it's true, because and it gets me every time he talks about Cain and Abel. I'm like,
Mm.
it's not, the story's not actually about Cain. It's not really about Cain. Yes, Cain is a figure of the story, and yes, the story follows Cain because Abel dies. But it's not about Cain's sacrifice. But that's my own thing. Anyway,
You want him to get that creation, fall, redemption, restoration.
I want him to read the book of Hebrews and realize that the blood of Cain is speaking. Oh, the blood of Abel is speaking. Okay, not the sacrifice. It's not the sacrifice of Cain that's speaking.
Now he's preaching. I'm getting him preaching. Let's just stay on this where Chris Williamson had a 2 million subscriber Chris Williamson podcast, 2 million subscriber live stream question thing that he did. And they were asking, he went to church on Easter for the first time since he was like a kid, or I guess he took his mom to mass recently, but he went to like a mega church in Austin. He's like, there was like a rock band there. And he's like, I guess I'm just kind of turning into the story arc of the podcast bro that gets older and starts kind of contemplating. Like he was calling out the whole archetype. Like,
okay, but this is to Adam Curry's point. That's exactly Adam Curry's point.
Let's go there, and then I want to end it with this clip from Jonathan Peugeot. So you do this thing, and
let's see. How do I like? I don't have control of this thing. I have it shared, but how do I actually share it?
I can do it. So add your Pete the Strange.
There it is. Now I have to actually click on it. Okay, if I play it.
Oh, Sean, there was so much that clicked when this started to come together. So immediately.
Okay, sorry. So a little bit of Adam Curry is the podfather. Adam Curry is attributed with inventing the thing that we know now as the podcast. Adam Curry is talking to Sean McDowell. After his appearance on Joe Rogan, which he kind of like suspiciously has not been on Joe Rogan for a little while. But the last time he was on Joe Rogan, he just shared his testimony about coming to faith in Jesus. And this is him talking to Sean about that, and then sort of connecting it to his life as a podcaster and as a person working in the TV industry.
I thought back to that moment, like, praise God. Now I know where that came from. Also, I didn't invent podcasting. Now I understand why all the hip hop guys, when they win, the Grammy Award, they're like, first thing I do is, I want to thank God, my creator. He put the lyrics in my head. And I'm like, yes. Now I understand. So all these things started to come into view for me. And obviously it's just really enriched my life by knowing not just where I come from, who has ordered my steps, but also who I'm really doing it for. Oh, Sean,
okay. So he kind of nods to this idea that, so he sort of like invented podcasting, and that's it. I don't know how to get rid of this thing.
I'll do it. Oops. Yeah.
I just clicked stop. Sorry. We're both trying to manage the stream at the same time. So again, I'm picking up something there with Adam Curry that's not explicit. He's not coming out and saying, God gave me the inspiration to start podcasting. But he's saying, after I became a Christian, I understood why I started podcasting. That it was the same type of thing, the same reaction I had was like when the Grammy artist wins a Grammy and says, like, God gave me the lyrics. God inspired this song, all glory to God. He's basically saying all glory to God when it comes to this thing that we now know as podcasting. It's so funny that like Russell Brand is getting baptized. Chris Williamson went to church
on Easter.
Jordan Peterson, for good or for ill, is a public theologian.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan has more often than not
anymore.
He's sorry, what?
He doesn't call himself an atheist anymore.
He doesn't and he will casually throw out, when I was reading the Bible, I was reading the book of Ezekiel. Like, have you ever thought about that? It's like he just like casually throws out the fact that he was doing his quiet time reading the Bible.
Easy on the quiet times.
like Joe Rogan. Why is Joe Rogan doing a quiet time with the book of Ezekiel?
We meditate. we don't quiet times for youth group. I forget your youth pastor. All right.
I'm a youth pastor, former missionary. We would call that, I don't know,
Quiet
hearing the
time.
voice of God. Okay. And so there's something to this, and TLC can take this and run with it. That's a really interesting interview with Sean McDowell and Adam Curry, where it's like now we're participating in a sense, sort of like podcasting 2.0, because we're doing it with video and screens and stuff like that. But there's a telos. There's a reason why it wasn't like. There's a reason why Adam Curry and others started doing this that maybe they're not even aware of yet. That's my thought.
Yeah. Well, I want to present, I guess, this clip. If I can get there, if I can do the Joe, not Joe Rogan, is well, that didn't work. That didn't work. Okay, no, there it is. There it is.
Okay.
So let's see. I should have had the right kind of clip pulled up or something. We'll see if I can get this to work. If I get the audio to work, tell me if you can hear this. If it can.
When there's some sort of a Jordan Peterson thing, a story or anything, I'll read like what people have to say about it. It's like, God damn, like it's again, it's also indicative of the kind of people that post things like that. Like that's not generally a healthy person. It's posting like a aggressively shitty, misrepresenting. But it's like very common that there's people like that, especially on Twitter or on Facebook or any of these places that just encourage mental illness, which is a lot of what it is.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though, man. In the real world, he's selling out fucking basketball arenas.
That's what it is. Yeah.
And it's full of well-dressed people who are there with their partner that they met because of the advice he gave them, or they're there to meet him because he's changed their life, or they didn't kill themselves, or they got a job, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the impact he's actually making on people's lives. And it's so impressive.
Yeah, we need more people like that.
We need way more people like that.
Yeah, we need more people that show an example, like an interesting, fascinating example of how to live your life.
The problem is that we live in a world of shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want an online following, we all know what we can do in order to get an online.
I'll just say, I mean, there's people that are critics of all these people and be critics of us, but we're doing what we're doing because of Joe Rogan's example.
I don't know that you can engage in dialogue for that long and not be transformed. Like that's what we're seeing,
and not transform people.
It is,
and part of it's probably been that he's tried not to focus on that in a way, but at the same time, like he just said, we need more people like that. Well, Joe, biggest effing platform in the podcast platform on the internet. All right.
Be the example. And
we're probably like about on time, but like I wanted to end with this this clip from if I can. I'm really slow at this. Now I've got to add a different one to the stage.
That's okay. I think your Grim Grizz impersonation is pretty good. Yeah, it needs maybe a little work, but
I don't have quite the deep voice.
You become. What is it? You become what you behold. You just have to watch more.
Yeah, this one is actually clipped, so it should work or whatever. But this is my hope of what we're kind of doing. What the work of these guys like Peterson and Peugeot, and even as we are trying to I was poking at your use of the word quiet time, but like what is the universal language? What are we trying to tap into here? And I thought this can be kind of a great way to kind of
the logos here and the logos in their own lives and in their own traditions. All of this is possible. It doesn't mean that everything is good and that everything is kept and it's all good. That's not what it means. But it means that possibility is there, and that the connection between the two will reveal what is true and what is good about the story. So
yeah,
all right, everyone.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Like that, and that's why, like, when I started looking, I was like, this is what we have to talk about, because it's the whole project, the whole thing that we've been trying to do, like all contained in a single story.
And he's talking. They're talking.
Oh, but this is good. So I think
They're talking about their Universal History Project,
Okay.
which is and the universal language of like, and they're talking like, what are we tapping into that draws people together? That's transcending some confessions. It's transcending a lot of things. And someone that's been following my content here here locally, he said, "What's y'all?" It was my father-in-law. He's like, "What's the orientating principle for you all?"
It's a good question.
And I kind of was like, I thought about it for a minute, and I think I had to kind of land on, and I'll use I've been guilty of doing this a lot lately. Something like God. And that's about as like tight as I felt like I could get it for the types of fringe and the wider, because even if you're not a believer, it's around the question. And so I think it's like, that's the hospitality, is to like allow that space, because it's almost like that space wasn't even available. We didn't know how to find that space to even ask those questions for a long time. So just that question alone. Of course, we've been pretty explicit on this, but
I mean, I think there's something.
You don't have to answer that, Pete. You don't have to answer that.
All right.
I think I don't want to protect you.
No. I think that there's something to. So we're asking the question of scale often when it comes to community. We've become sort of digital and global, and so community gets stretched out, and in that stretching, you become. It's easier to become more isolated. And I thought about this because I was in a small group discussion talking about small groups of all things. And the idea of a small group is, if you're in a church, it's like, oh, there's, maybe there's 500 people in your church, maybe there's 5,000 people in your church, and it's hard to sort of get to know everybody. Well, of course, you're not going to get to know everybody, but it's hard to relate to a group of 5,000 or 500. But it's a little bit easier to relate to a small group. So what do most churches do? They sort of collapse down into these small groups, which is great. Like, we need to continue to do that. And often it's like, well, because Jesus had a small group, right? He had this 12, and in some ways Jesus was a youth pastor, right? 'Cause some of them were fairly young. And so there's this, right? Okay, got it. Check. We should be like Jesus. I would never say we should not be like Jesus. But I noticed that in the book of Acts, when Peter stands up, it says that he's filled with the Spirit, and 5,000 believe.
Oh.
That's scale. That's the scale question that we're talking about. How do you go from 12 to 5,000? Filled with the Spirit.
Well, guys,
That's the only answer I have.
That's a good one. I'm trying to see. I've been wondering. Oh, that's not the kind of banner. I wanted the scroll banner. Oh, here's how you scroll it. Now I want to hide it.
Let's go. Now wait, there we go. Wait.
No, it didn't work. It says scroll across the bottom as a ticker. Add banner. I don't know. Hide, add. Oh, well.
Hey, we're working things out here, fam. If you're here at the end, towards the end, I don't know if we're actually ending, but
we're wrapping down. I was trying to do something cool.
We're going to, eventually, this is going to be so smooth, buttery smooth. There's going to be clips. It's going to be perfect. There's going to be no like thinky-talky banter. It's just going to be smooth.
Yeah. No, that's too mechanical. Too mechanical. All right.
That's right.
I'm Deucing, peacing us out. Pete, thanks for hanging again. Everybody out there, late night, TLC, larger world. Until next time, here's our little bumper. Y'all have a good night. Oh, I say that. It didn't work. That's a background. See how smooth we are?